Hello everyone, I'm Fozzie or Cam, and I'm here as always with my co-host Will. How you doing today, Will?
Doing great, Cam. Super excited for this episode. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Glad to be here. Welcome to the Everything Podcast, guys. We have an awesome episode for you guys today. I mean, really, just an awesome episode. But before we get into all the good stuff, I wanted to mention that we're gonna actually be bringing back the Everything Music Show. Um, and we're gonna keep working on the Only Movies show. Keep posting more. I just did a Barbenheimer review, and there's gonna be more stuff like that. But in terms of the Everything Music show, we're gonna be doing album reviews. We're gonna try to be doing on that. We're gonna talk about artists we like. Um, yeah, it's gonna be less like we won't have anyone performing like we did with Forrest and John. But well, as always, if they'd like to send us anything, we'd be happy to put it on the show. I mean, we love them; they're super talented. So, yeah, Forrest and John, if you all want to ever send us anything, feel free to. But yeah, so just that you guys should know that, just a little update to the audience. But yeah, let's get into today's episode. First off, we have to talk about Indiana Jones 5. So I mentioned it a little bit on that hour-long awesome episode with Mike that we did a few weeks ago. I talked about how I didn't really like it, um, and I was going to make a only movie show episode about it. But then you had your opinion on it, and it was completely different than mine. So I figured we
Yeah,
should save this for the show, because the best part of the show is when we disagree, and that doesn't happen too often, because most of the time we have similar takes on things. So
yeah.
this is gonna be a pretty entertaining little debate. So Will, everyone knows my thoughts on Indiana Jones 5. Let's hear yours, Will.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to add? Because I don't think you've been able to go into specifics yet. So now that we've both seen the movie, are there any specifics that you want to go into as to what you didn't enjoy about it?
All right, so yeah, I'll just do this real quick. So, all right, the time travel.
Okay.
Why did they travel through time? It was cartoonish. I mean, Indiana Jones has obviously always been a little bit. It's not quite an our grounded reality. It's and like from the first movie, aliens exist, but it's not as it's subtle. It's not like they're showing aliens like it's in the fourth one. It's just kind of implied that there's some magical presence.
Mm,
And in the fourth one, we just straight up see a alien,
right.
and then in this one we just travel through time. I mean, that's cartoonish. That's ridiculous. I mean, like I just said, Indiana Jones movies have not always been very grounded movies, but they haven't been that silly ever. I mean, except for the whole Indiana Jones 4 alien thing, but I said that a lot of times. But yes,
Right.
so that was horrendous. I also thought Harrison Ford's way too old. I thought, what was that kid's name? Will, the kid with Helena. Uh,
I don't know that character's name, but I know who you're talking about.
yeah, but the little kid with Helena didn't. Why was he in the movie? Why
I
was
okay. I will give you that. If there was one character I cared about the least, it would be him. So I'll give you that. Yeah.
all right? So yeah, he didn't really do anything except
Right.
just kind of. It was kind of like a short round character, except not likable at all,
Right.
and didn't really have any funny moments or any cool moments at all. Except he killed someone. Wait, he handcuffed that guy to the thing underwater. The little kid killed someone. That's insane. That's ridiculous. Short round would never do that, and they're clearly trying to make that character like short round. So yeah, they're ridiculous. I thought Indiana Jones wasn't really even the main character either. I thought Helena kind of
Really.
stole the show. Yeah.
I think
Um,
that makes sense. Well, but because I know you have a thing about like in Indiana Jones fighting less, but I think that makes total sense because he's an older guy now, and I personally do not need a character fighting all the time just to find him compelling.
I see what you're saying, but the one of the main draws for me to this Indiana Jones franchise is the action set pieces, the fight scenes, the cool chase scenes, which we do get. The chase scenes are pretty good in this film, but the fight scenes, the most memorable things about Indiana Jones are the big fight scenes of the movie. And the first one, the guy with the plane propeller, who gets chopped up, that's a legendary fight. I mean, and then
Oh yeah.
second, in that underground layer with who was that fight with? That big guy. I mean, that whole thing on the bridge, that was a big action. I'm not expecting him to do that big bridge action scene from the second movie. And I mean, the big one of the biggest parts of Indiana Jones are the fight scenes, and there just weren't any. So weren't any good fight scenes. I mean, really, it was disappointing. I thought they
Okay.
could have done something, and I mean, yeah, it was just disappointing. And
This is
oh, go ahead.
Oh no, no. I was just gonna say, like, you're saying that like the fight scenes are like were the main draw for you in the original movies. Personally, I don't want just the fight scenes to be the
Yeah,
draw for
totally.
me.
Yeah,
I want to be able to care about the characters, and
yeah,
I
that
thought Spielberg
totally. Yeah,
tried to make the first four movies fun movies, whereas in this one, when Indiana Jones is talking about stuff like the reason that the reason he broke up with his wife was because his son went off to the war and got killed in the war. When Indiana Jones is dropping lines like that in sharing stories like that, it just makes me so much more emotionally invested in his character. And
yeah.
I thought they humanized his character in ways that they hadn't in the previous four films, and I just cared so much more about what happened to him this time around.
I kind of see what you're saying. I still disagree because, like you said, his character development, him as a character, is just as important as the action. But if it was just action, I'd be upset too. That would be ridiculous. There needs to be character development, but there just wasn't enough action. And I said it. I just said it a bunch of times, but I just feel disappointed by that.
Okay.
And I have one more major complaint here. I have a few other nitpicks that I might get into later
Okay.
on. That opening scene. Okay,
What
so
did you not like about it?
it, it, it wasn't it wasn't right. It didn't feel right. And no matter what Hollywood does, the the CGI faces it'll never look real. It'll never look convincing. It I just had a hard time believing. Oh yeah, that definitely happened. That was Indiana Jones. I no no that's not Indiana Jones. That
What about it wasn't Indiana Jones to you?
he just didn't look. It didn't look right. It looked like a bunch of CGI. I mean, on a screen, and it was disgusting. Actually,
Okay.
I was disgusted by it. More so the parts on top of the train and on that train
Okay.
than the stuff that when I'm trying to get my point across here. The thing I really liked about the one thing I liked about that scene was that felt like Indiana Jones was when he was hanging from the rope and he had to get out of that situation. That felt like Indiana Jones, but aside from that, no, it was just a CGI mess.
Okay, so
Upsetting.
let me say this. You have watched, I assume, the Indiana Jones movies multiple times.
Oh
So
yeah,
you've had multiple time like you've had a lot of times to
that's a
develop
fair
what
point.
you think looks like Indiana Jones and what you think doesn't. And you also really are looking at things from a, I would say, a director's eye type of mindset. So you're gonna see like whether you think some CGI doesn't look good and stuff like that. So I'll give it to you for that. But for me, but for me personally, because I haven't seen the, I've only seen all I've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark twice, the other four once, but it I was fine with how he looked. Like I believed that that was a young Indiana Jones. The only thing that I think the only complaint that I had is that sometimes it's hard to think about how that's an 80-year-old Harrison Ford's voice inside
Yeah.
the younger body. I get that, but besides that, I thought he looked just fine, and I thought the fight scenes were great. And one of the things that I always applaud about the Indiana Jones franchise is that they always tend to have just like a big opening fight sequence that really grabs my attention and hooks me. And the opening to Dial of Destiny was right up there for me. I was hooked right from the beginning.
I think the most interesting part of that opening fight scene, aside from when he's hanging, he had to get out of that situation. The most interesting part for me was the font they used on the title card. That was the most interesting part for me, which is a bad thing because it was on the screen for 3 seconds. I mean, I was disappointed by this.
Okay.
And one more thing before I let you do a full review, and I'll let you give your thoughts on why you liked it. I just want to say one thing that I liked real quick. I liked what they did with his son. I liked that scene on the boat where they talked about his son. I like that. I thought that was really emotional. I thought that was really cool. But aside from that, I mean, there wasn't much else that was that compelling in the movie. But Will, the floor is yours. Let's hear
Yeah,
your thoughts on Indiana Jones 5.
I mean, ultimately, it was just kind of more my type of action movie. As I said earlier, I just thought they humanized his character in ways they hadn't done in the previous four films. I thought he was more kind of like superhero-ish, like in the first four films, and I didn't fully feel this, feel that way this time around. It just felt so much more character driven to me. I already talked about the scene where he's talking about, his that you just mentioned his son going off to the war and dying. Really kind of dark topics like that would not be covered, in my opinion, in the original four Indiana Jones movies because they were meant to be fun. And I know you said previously that you thought Karen Allen should have been in the movie more.
Definitely.
I actually feel like her not being in it makes it even more rewarding when she comes in at the end. And her and Harrison Ford scene, like that was the most emotional scene I've ever seen between the two of them. I thought it was such a perfect way to end it. And also an issue that I had with the original Indiana Jones films is I just thought the treatment I just feel like the treatment of certain female characters from like 80s action movies isn't great. Like Kate
I yes.
Capshaw's character, for instance, from Temple of Doom, I thought horrible female treatment, and I
Oh
was
my
so happy that
god.
they brought Karen Allen back in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull because I was like, you're gonna give him a love interest in the first one, and now we're gonna bring the second one along, and he's gonna be with a new person, and then in the third movie he's gonna like sleep with another woman, I guess. So it was so great for me to have the main female that he is interacting with in the film not be a love interest for once. That was so just refreshing to me. So ultimately I just thought it was a more character driven film and had more emotional scenes than previous Indiana Jones movies. And ultimately, I like to feel emotionally invested in the characters and care about what's happening about them, along with, all of the fights and stuff. So ultimately, it was just more my type of action movie. And I also thought that the dialogue between the characters was more believable than some of the other Indiana Jones films in the past.
Yeah. All right. So I get what you're saying when you say it's your type of action movie. I guess it's just not mine. I feel like they mistreated this character. I mean, if
How?
he didn't, all right, well, I'm gonna start getting mad right now.
Okay, please go
When
ahead.
you have this legendary character who's been this legendary character for all these years, all he's done for this franchise, and they have this big final act in the final Indiana Jones film. You know what they do with Indiana Jones? He got shot in the shoulder, and he's not even in it. And then he wants to stay. He wants to stay back in time. It, well, if he stayed there, I would have left the theater. I would have left the
Well,
theater,
he
but he
well
didn't.
he didn't
He
he
didn't.
didn't he
He
didn't
didn't.
he didn't
Yeah,
stay there. And
totally.
also, if the character is 80 years old, why would I expect him to be fighting as much? That actually wouldn't make sense to me.
See, but the thing I'm saying is, when this character's so legendary, you can't just sit him out in his final movie. He can't just be sitting there. He was just there, aching because he got shot. I mean, he should have been doing things. He wasn't. He wasn't doing anything. And then Marion, she should have been in the movie more, but no, she just shows up. She just shows up. That's actually the same with Salah in the movie too. He
But
doesn't.
don't you feel like it's more like I feel like it's more exciting when she comes in at the end because they make you wait for her to come in, and then it's all the more rewarding when it eventually happens.
But I just feel like she should have. I get. I do see what you're saying. I see what you're saying because with the whole his son dying thing, it makes sense that she would have left him,
Yeah.
which is compelling. But I just wish because she's also a legendary character. She's been there since the first movie. I mean, she wasn't in the second and third, but she is a legendary character in the Indiana Jones franchise, and for her to get like I don't know a minute of screen time in this is disrespectful, kind of.
Okay, I get that, but also I feel like they gave her enough they gave her enough screen time. I feel like in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where I'm more okay with her just showing up in one scene here. And as I said, like thinking about how they got divorced and they got divorced because his son went off into the war and died, and it's like, oh my God, are they going to be able to get back together or not? And then when she shows up at the end, it was just so satisfying.
Yeah, I think we're saying I just would have rather her be in the movie from the beginning. Um,
Okay.
Whether it was her leaving Indiana Jones, her leaving Indy, but then and he's going on this adventure, and then he goes up to her and begs her because he needs her help with this, and maybe she goes on the adventure instead of Helena, because or maybe with Helena. I mean, either way, it just she should have been a more central character in the movie. Um, but yeah, do we have any more thoughts on? Oh, actually, yes, I do. The villain played by Mads Mikkelsen was a highlight for me. I thought. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I've haven't actually seen a bad performance from Mads Mikkelsen. I thought he was really good. But one nitpick. Well,
Okay.
this is silly, but
Okay.
when he's on the train and he gets hit in the head, there is no way he would have survived that. Did you see how hard he got hit in the head? But
Okay. This
it's a
is
nitpick, yes.
these are little things that you're gonna
Yes.
notice with
Like,
the
that's
way
not
that
really
you
even a
watch movies.
that's not really
Yeah,
even a complaint. I just thought it was funny.
I mean, if stuff like that was happening multiple times in this action movie, then I would have complaints about it. But one little thing, I'm okay with it.
All right, yeah, that was just a little nitpick. I thought was funny. But yeah, I think that's all we have for Indiana Jones. But now we have to move on to our next debate. Well, two
Oh boy.
debates in one episode. Oppenheimer. I love this. On Letterboxd, I gave this a 5 out of 5. I thought this was a beautiful movie. I mean, just beautiful. But Will, I want to hear your thoughts because you didn't like it as much as I did.
Yeah, my main complaint, it was just moving too fast for me. As I was watching it, it just felt like it was going by like this, and I just felt they were speeding from scene to scene at a pace that was just too fast. I thought obviously the performances, Killian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr. for me, having only seen him in Iron Man, was a
Yeah,
was
same.
a was a revelation for me. Matt Damon, another one of my favorite actors, I thought was fantastic. Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, very good. I thought they had like I thought they had a great story in place and they did some things very well. To me, it just went by so quick that I didn't have the time to develop as much interest in these characters as I thought I would. It just felt like it was going by like this for me at times.
See, when you say it was going by fast, I get what you're saying, but the thing is, I think that was intentional. I think it was because they were trying to give you a look inside J. Robert Oppenheimer's head. What it was supposed to
Oh.
be like, what his perception of the world was like. I feel like. I mean, it was looking through his lens, you know, and I see how that can be kind of disorienting. It kind of was for me. But once I
So
realized
are
that's
you saying that you think he's seeing the world fast? Kind of
not
like things are
not
happening at a quick pace
not
for him?
like
What are you saying?
not like that. Just how kind of
Yeah, and I can hear you now. We're good.
oh we get.
Yep, we're good. I can hear you now. Yep, we're all good.
How long was I muted?
About a minute, but maybe the audience was able to hear you, but just I couldn't.
I don't think so. What was I talking about? I was talking about
Uh,
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. Yeah, good.
Yeah. So I sorry. I thought it was a look inside his head. I thought all the things jumping back and forth were just a look. What he was thinking. His mind is scattering
Okay.
all over the place, and the scenes in black and white just how he was seeing the world. And after the bomb goes off, he's standing with all his people cheering, and he gets really loud, and then he's stepping in the burnt up corpse. And that scene, that's just how he just feels. He's like, I just thought it was a look inside J. Robert Oppenheimer's mind, you know. Um, yeah, that's kind of my reasoning, and that's why I didn't mind it being fast
Okay.
paced or a little chaotic at times, because that's how J. Robert Oppenheimer saw the world, you know. And I also
Well,
thought all the performances were great.
I agree that all the performances were great, and I hadn't thought of it from the standpoint of that's what J. Robert Oppenheimer's mind is like. And I'm not saying I wouldn't have been okay with it being a little faster at some points. It was just how much it had that quicker pace that I was just like, can you at least slow down a little bit and allow me to just get into and understand these characters a bit more than you are. Like if it was a little faster, sometimes I would have been okay with it, but it was just like how constant it was, and just right from the beginning, I was just like, this is a bit too much for me.
Yeah, I get it. I just, like I said, thought it was a look into his head, so I just it made sense to me. Another thing I liked about Oppenheimer was the visuals. Christopher Nolan didn't use any CGI for this movie, which I can respect. He used smaller models, which is really cool, instead of actually creating a nuclear bomb. Will, did you see this movie in IMAX?
I didn't. actually. It's too bad that I didn't, but even without IMAX, it was
Really?
still great. And
Yeah, I'm
oh,
sure.
oh yeah, like the bomb scene even without IMAX, I thought was great. Like no complaints.
I did see this in IMAX, and I mean, now hearing that it still sounded outstanding in just a normal cinema. I
Yeah.
mean that's awesome. I mean, that just shows you how much dedication this man has into making these breathtaking sound effects, these breathtaking visuals. I mean, props to Christopher Nolan. Really, I mean, that's amazing. And IMAX, it was probably the loudest movie I've ever seen in my life, but
Hmm.
that was a good thing. I thought. I mean, I was really happy with the audio visual part of this movie. I thought it looked beautiful. The cinematography by Hoyt van Hoytema, um, who did the cinematography for another favorite of mine, Nope, which came out last year, which was my favorite movie of last year. He did the cinematography for that too, which I thought was really cool, and he's a really good cinematographer. So yeah, and how do you feel about his use of practical effects instead of CGI and the whole sound effects? Well, what are your thoughts?
Great, yeah, no complaints at all. And I think there's something really cool about not using CGI for a moment like this. Because think about it, back during World War II, CGI was something that didn't exist. So I think it's cool to not have CGI in a movie that takes place in a time period when there wasn't any. So yeah, all of the CGI and the practical effects and the sounds, no complaints from me at all.
Yeah, it was breathtaking. I thought. I mean, that's just why I love Christopher Nolan as a director. His commitment to the craft is just incredible. I mean, but yeah, super huge fan of Oppenheimer. I just want to hear what would you give it out of 10, Will?
Um, I'm gonna say 8 out of 10 because I there
Okay.
there
All right.
there were parts that I enjoyed. It's just if it just slowed down at sometimes and did just let me explore characters a little bit more and on a little bit deeper level, then I would have given it a 10. And like I did think like that was a really interesting point that you brought up in terms of like you're seeing this through Oppenheimer's mind. Like I like it's like I guess like for me as a viewer, I may not want to necessarily have to figure out stuff like how I'm seeing it through
I get
Oppenheimer's
that. I get
mind,
that. Yeah.
but I also get what you're saying there too.
Yeah, totally. I see where you're coming from. I mean, not every movie viewer wants to put in that much work, but
And I don't want to act like I'm somebody who can't put in the work. I would
oh
I would
yeah,
like to be very clear that I am willing to put
oh yeah,
in
I don't doubt
work
that at
when it
all. Yeah,
what I'm totally willing to put in work when it comes to movies. My issue is that when movies are, and I'm not saying this one was one, so that's why like I'm totally fine with your comment overall. But like my issue are the movies where it's like they're so confusing that it's impossible to have to figure them out. So the
yeah,
movies where I have to over figure them out, that's when it becomes an issue for me.
yeah. I get that. I totally get that. And I think that for me, out of 10, I gave it a 5 out of 5. But out of 10, I think it's gonna have to land at a 9 to 9.5. I'm not quite ready to give it a 10 until I rewatch it. Um, but yeah, I loved Oppenheimer, and you liked it too. I actually thought you liked it less than you did. So
No,
yeah,
I mean I gave it an 8 because basically every single I gave it an 8 because everything other than the pacing, like I didn't really have a problem with. Like I could see the skill that went into this project. It was just the pacing that I had an issue with. But ultimately the reason why I'm going to give it an 8 is because if I had an issue with pacing and also a bunch of other things too, then that would take it down more for me.
Yeah.
But because I only really have one real issue, that's why I'm willing to be a bit more kind and still give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm glad you enjoyed it aside from the pacing because I thought it was a really cool experience in general. Okay, so now we have to talk about Secret Invasion, a Marvel show that we both watched that just ended. I was a fan of it. The first episode started slow, and then the show just got better and better with every episode. And well, then we got the finale, and the finale I thought was awful. What did you think?
I didn't think it was awful. I just thought the last two episodes, episodes 5 and 6, took the show from an A to an A minus. And my reasons were these two: like the episodes felt a little bit more rushed to me than the ones before them. The ones before them allowed characters to have longer scenes and some really interesting conversation. So the last two episodes kind of flipped the pace and sped it up a bit to me. And then also the final episode, I acknowledge that, like what the president did, for instance, I acknowledge that stuff like that is setting up the future of the MCU. But the problem is that that also makes the ending of the show a little less satisfying than you were expecting.
Yeah,
And they had, I thought, a great final scene in episode 5 with Nick Fury becoming Nick Fury again, but you
yeah.
didn't get that. But you didn't get that real like badass I'm back Nick Fury moment in the finale. So that was a little
No.
sad that was a little sad to me too. So I just feel like because they had to speed it up a little bit and because they were setting up the future of the MCU and you didn't get what the badass Nick Fury scene, that is my reason that I thought I still think I still thought the show was very good and a dramatic improvement from last year's Marvel shows,
Yeah,
but to me the final two episodes took it from an A down to an A minus.
I agree. I thought. All right, so why was this rushed? Marvel has so much money. Make it 8 episodes. They've done it before. Just make it 8 episodes. Instead, we have this rushed final product that's just ended up being not that good. Episodes, episode 1 was good. It just started slow. Episode
Right.
2, 3, 4 were good. I actually thought 5 was good, but this finale was just wasn't it. I mean, the one thing that could have potentially been cool with Nick Fury, it wasn't actually Nick Fury. It was Gaia. And while that fight scene looked wonky, I thought the whole idea behind it was cool. But I thought Gravik died in such a stupid way. What a boring death for such a great villain. And it was
Mm.
kind of insulting to that character, who I thought was really fantastic and really well performed. Um, so I didn't love that. I like the whole roadie thing. I'm excited to see the aftermath of that. Um, but yeah, just an overall disappointing finale, and they should have made it 8 episodes. I feel like so it would be less rushed. But yeah, didn't love I like the show, but this finale significantly impacts my enjoyment of the show altogether. You know.
Yeah, like you think the finale was flat out like it sounds to me like you think the finale was just flat out bad, right? Like
Yeah,
you think
I
it was
didn't love
like
it.
flat
I
out bad.
didn't love it.
Now, it's I do think episodes 5 and 6 and 1 too. I think all three episodes are good episodes. They just didn't live up to well, one I'm gonna toss to the side here because 2, 3, and 4 hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Episodes 5 and 6 I thought were good, but the reason I can't love them is because they such a high standard with episodes 2, 3, and 4, which I thought were great.
Yeah.
So then when you've set such a high standard for yourself, but then you come out with episodes 5 and 6, I'm gonna like episodes 5 and 6, but not be able to love them because of the very lofty standards you set with the previous 3 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just disappointing. There are two things I hope with Marvel. I hope Daredevil Born Again is good,
Ooh.
and and I hope Agatha Coven of Chaos is good. Please let it
I
be good.
hope Echo is good. Please make Echo good.
Yeah,
Spin-off of Hawkeye, a show that I
I
love.
mean
Please
Echo
don't screw up that character.
the character's good in Hawkeye. I don't think she needs her own show necessarily, but
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see. Of course, I mean Marvel.
Allow me to
Marvel
yeah.
clearly has an idea of what they want to do with her. But what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, Marvel, if you screw up Daredevil and Wilson Fisk, I'm gonna be very angry. Do not do that. Do not do it. Don't do it, because I am coming. I will be so angry with them if they find a way to screw up Daredevil Born Again. Oh boy, if they do that, I'm coming. I will not be happy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that'll be ridiculous. I feel like they can't. It would just be disrespectful to the whole audience if they messed up that. Um,
And here is my issue. If they were implying, because it sounds to me they're not bringing back Karen Page and Foggy Nelson from the Netflix series, and Charlie Cox says that this Disney Plus series is going to be more like a season 1 than a season 4. So I'm like, are they just going to do the whole origin story all over again? But this is my biggest issue. My biggest issue is this. If you were saying that this Daredevil and Wilson Fisk were from a different reality than the ones from the Netflix show, then I would be a little bit more okay with it. But all the press and all the interviews and all the articles that I've read, Marvel is stating that this is the same Daredevil and Wilson Fisk from the Netflix show. So if you're going to say that to me and then go out and make Daredevil Born Again like a season 1 instead of a season 4, then that just doesn't make logical sense in my mind.
yeah, it would be ridiculous if they messed up the show. I'd be upset. I mean, but speaking of Marvel being annoying and making things they don't really need to make, or making things that everyone wanted, but messing it all up, we have the Marvels trailer that came out.
Yeah.
Why? Just make Captain Marvel 2. Just do that. Just do that. And maybe make a Miss Marvel season 2 and make it a better show. How about that? You could do that. You could have Monica Rambeau return in something else. Clearly she's in contact with Nick Fury, so maybe she could have been Secret Invasion. Maybe she could have been an Agatha Coven of Chaos, because, she knows Agatha, right? But no, they're just gonna be in the same movie together. That's just what's gonna happen. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous, don't you think, Will?
I'm fine with them being in a movie together, and I love from a female empowerment perspective having 3 females in the lead in a
For sure.
superhero movie. Yeah. No. Like, I get what you're saying, but my issue isn't that those 3 are in a movie together. My issue is that I wasn't a huge fan of the original Captain Marvel movie, and Marvel tends to make, in my opinion, great trailers, but these 2 trailers just haven't stuck out to me like some of their
It
trailers
looked
for other
ridiculous.
movies have. So when you make 2 trailers that I'm not like super pulled in by, and I'm already not a fan of the original Captain Marvel movie, I just can't muster up much excitement for the Marvels coming out this November.
Yeah, I mean,
Now, my issue, like, I didn't think it was ridiculous. I'm just not interested because I'm not a fan of the original movie, and these trailers didn't stick out to me. So I am curious, like, what do you think looks ridiculous about it?
I think the whole concept is foolish.
Okay.
Um, this whole phase, this whole new saga
The
is
multiverse
it's
saga, yeah.
supposed yeah, the multiverse saga is supposed to be more serious, I guess. I feel like with shows like Moon Knight, Secret Invasion, I mean, granted, there were funnier movies like Love and Thunder, but this doesn't even seem to be like that. It seems to be childish. I mean, that Nick Fury from the trailers is not the same Nick Fury we just saw in Secret Invasion. I mean, it doesn't look funny. Either it doesn't. If it's clearly a comedy. I mean, am I right on that? I mean, it it
Yeah,
it,
it
it
it it seems to have a lighter tone, and that, with the exception of maybe like the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, usually that and the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, usually that's not the tone that I look for as much in a superhero movie.
yeah, for those two franchises and and Thor Ragnarok, I thought it worked.
And
But
Thor, yes, and that, of course.
those movies actually made me chuckle. I really laughed during
Right,
Ragnarok.
right. Yeah, me too.
Nothing about this trailer looks funny, really, at
Same.
all.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
It just nothing was like, oh, that's. I
Yeah.
didn't really feel anything while watching the trailer. Maybe as the time goes on, we'll get more TV spots. But right now, it's not looking like it's gonna be a good movie, and I don't think I'm gonna see this movie in IMAX like I do with every other Marvel movie. If it gets good reviews, then sure. But if it just gets mediocre reviews, I'm not even gonna bother. I mean, I just I'll see it in the theater. It's just upsetting that we're just gonna get
Your
another mediocre movie.
your opinion on Marvel really seems to be declining as of late.
All right, don't get me wrong. I love Marvel. I love Marvel. But the choices they're making is just bewildering. I mean, it's just but like I said, I mean they've made I can recognize when we get a good Marvel project. Well, I loved I mean Across the Spider Verse is MCU, but I loved Across the Spider Verse and I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. I just the TV shows. I mean, you can agree with just maybe stop making them. Secret Invasion was good enough. I mean,
I would say it's not an issue of stopping making them. It's an issue of slowing down on how many
yeah,
they're releasing. And I believe they're doing that with the statement that Bob Iger came out recently and said, and the fact that we didn't get Secret Invasion until June, which is almost halfway into the year. I just think that they need to slow down on how much they're putting out and how much they're making in the TV world. And also, Cam, here's another, and this will be my last point. Here is another thing that I realized with their TV shows. All of the best ones like WandaVision and Hawkeye and overall, I would include Secret Invasion in this and also stuff like Loki. Notice this. These are all characters from the Infinity Saga.
yeah,
Now let's take a look at their shows from last year. Moon Knight, new character. Miss Marvel, new character. She-Hulk, new character. My issue with Marvel right now is that these new characters that they're introducing just do not, I have just not nearly enjoyed to the extent that I enjoy the characters from the Infinity Saga that they're giving sequels or their own shows to right now. So when you're kind of bringing the stories of these older characters from the Infinity Saga, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, to the end, but you're introducing these new characters that I'm not as compelled by, why should I feel great about your future? So, one of the things that I've noticed is that all of the best content has seemed to come from Marvel characters from the Infinity Saga and not new characters being introduced in the Multiverse Saga.
Yeah, and that's a problem, especially when you're trying to establish this new saga. So yeah, and I think aside from Shang-Chi, the worst movies have been introducing new characters like Eternals. But yeah, not looking good for the Marvels. Or actually, not looking good for Marvel in general right now. But please prove me wrong. Like I said, I love Marvel. Prove me wrong. Make the Marvels be a good movie. I mean, Loki season 2 is gonna be good, so that'll probably prove me wrong right there. So yeah, I'm open to getting proven wrong by Marvel. Make a good show, a movie, and I'll be on your side again, Marvel. But yeah, that about does it for today's episode of the Everything Podcast. Will, thanks for joining me as always. More consistent uploads coming soon. More episodes from the Everything Everything Music Show and the Only Movie Show coming out soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you next time.